I'm going to try to be brief today and then turn it over to Representative Dahl because I'd like to have time left for questions. But I do want to say a few things about a few items. And I thought I'd pick out three of the things that I think are interesting and very important that are happening. That being the gas line, some legislation that involves a cruise ship initiative, which I know many of you worked hard on, and then I'm going to talk briefly about some budget issues. So first, the gas line. You know, the reason why I'm so interested in this is because I believe that it's our future. It's just like when we funded the with the Trans-Alaska pipeline, which I know all of you remember. When that huge pipeline was built and the oil started flowing, that was when we started to see our state get the infrastructure that it needed for the future. I can remember as a child seeing those big pieces of equipment working their way up north and feeling very excited about what was going to happen for us. And we saw a lot of things. We saw a student loan for kids to go to college on that had forgiveness. We saw longevity bonus come in for seniors. We saw housing loans with low interest come in for people. And I think that with the gas line, we will see, and hopefully we'll be a little wiser this time about how we tax and how we deal with it, but I think we'll see the same kind of things happening for Alaska. Governor Palin has really taken a courageous lead on this issue, and she introduced what she calls the AGIA bill about a little over a month ago. And since that time, the bill has been through one committee in the House, and then there's a Senate version that's also been through a committee. My friend, Representative Scott Kawasaki, who's sitting here on the end of the table, was in the first committee in the House, and he's also going to serve on the second. In the minority, we've tried real hard to grow this expertise so that we can have people who are right on top of things when it comes to the floor. As you remember, last year, Governor Murkowski was negotiating with the oil companies, and at the end, it all came to no avail. We're working hard, and it's a new approach with a new governor, and we really are hoping we're successful. One of the people that's working on this issue is Commissioner Tom Irwin, and I don't know if you remember when Commissioner Irwin and Deputy Commissioner Marty Rutherford, Pat Galvin, and others quit. They gave up their jobs in the previous administration. But thankfully they're back, and I consider them to be real heroes. That's a tough thing to do, to give up your job and to walk away from something that you care about when you know something has happened that you can no longer serve under. That's tough. So we've got good people, they're committed, and they're working very, very hard. The idea on this gas line isn't to get a contract with the producers, with the big oil companies, is to get a pipeline and with incentives that will then get our gas flowing. So it's sort of a carrot. I don't know when we're going to have to maybe use a stick as well, but I hope that it works, and we're working hard to see that. You know, my grandfather, Oscar, who was the first one in my family to come to Alaska, he used to say, don't stop the man who's doing something. Now, in this case, it's a woman, because we have our first woman governor, and I'm really happy to have that. But in this case, I think we should support the woman who's trying to get something done. And there's been criticism of the bill, and we're going to have to work fewer through things. But if we see a fair return on our resource wealth, that's going to bring us some of the same good things that we got from the oil pipeline. And hopefully we've learned our lesson with some of the bad things, and we do better this time. It's not perfect, but I sure hope that we get it, and I hope we get it soon, because we've only got about a month left in session. So, the second thing I want to touch on, just briefly, is bills that deal with the cruise ship initiative that passed last summer. This is the trouble with initiatives. The legislature gets all mixed up with them, because sometimes they don't know what to do. Here it is with the people speaking, and they're not used to that. They like to think it's all up to them in that building, and as we all know, it isn't. And a cruise ship initiative passed last summer, and what it did, one of the main parts of it, was they put a person on board called an ocean ranger to be there to check up on things, sort of like a fisheries on-board observer. Now, in the legislature, there's a piece of legislation that would require that person simply to be at court. And I don't think when people call this person an ocean ranger, they really had in mind somebody just sitting in court and doing paperwork. But that's become a very big issue this session. And there's court cases that interpret our Constitution that say you can make amendments to legislation, you can make clarifications, but you can't repeal it. You can't do a wholesale change. And I think that's a wholesale change. So we're having some arguments about that. I think at the end, this industry that has made some very good strides, they have really cleaned up the pollution because of legislation that a lot of us worked on, and they've really made an effort. But I think in the end, hopefully the industry and the legislature and people involved get together, we do clarify things, and we make this program work. I'm going to talk just a little bit now before I turn it to Andrea about budget issues. Things are moving pretty fast right now, so I don't have final answers on exactly where anything's going to wind up. But I do want to mention, because I know many of you are as concerned as I am about what ultimately happens. The first thing I want to mention is municipal revenue sharing. The governor's budget funded municipal revenue sharing at $48.1 million, which is at the same level as last year. Now, this is money that goes into communities to help them survive. And while funding a portion also of the municipality's retirement system money is important, and we're trying to deal with that, I think it's important that we return some of our wealth back to the communities from which it came. I mean, otherwise it's as if I think we take the resources out without paying back, without recognizing that every city, every town, every village is a part of our state. And when we lose those villages, and now we have 9 cities no longer functioning, 17 more are in deep debt, and 39 of them are terminating local services, that hurts all of us. That isn't right. I'm going to strongly support increased levels of municipal revenue sharing, and I think that with the governor's help that we're going to see that coming back this year. The state and the teacher retirement system is another huge issue. There are quite a few proposals on the table for dealing with it. One provides for cost sharing with the state, picking up quite a big chunk of the costs. Another would have the state appropriate general funds, that's just our money that comes in from oil, in order to set the employer contribution rates. It's a complicated issue, I'm not going to fool you. But the bottom line is we need a solution that works so that we don't just put good money after bad every year and panic and then ultimately take it out on the retirees. I want to be able to retire someday. I see that coming sooner than I like to think, and I want to see everybody have a good, strong retirement system. I'm just going to briefly, final thing is education funding. One of the good pushes this year is to see that rural towns get paid more for their teachers, because we all know it costs more to educate students in Bethel than it does in downtown Anchorage. So there's a push on to see a percentage at least of a big report that was written about this, put out by AGIA, University of Alaska, and we're trying to make an effort to see that report used so that we can make this funding difference. It's again an issue that probably won't be resolved right until the very end of session, but Representative Mike Chenault from Kenai, who's one of the co-chairs of the House Finance Committees, is very involved in this, and I believe he'll continue to fight for at least part of that report suggestion to be funded. We may hopefully get more in the future, but at least it's a start. So, in closing, I want to thank you for having me here. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and I hope to continue to do so. If you ever have a thought or concern or want me to know something or feel something isn't going right, please let me know. You know, stop me in the grocery store, call me at home, and let me know. So with that, I'm going to finish and turn it over to Representative Andrea Dahl, and then hopefully we'll have some time left for questions if I haven't used up too much time. Thank you.